I'm not a nationalist person at all, but it's just an extra element of me that I'm very proud of being British, and I consider myself British, but there's that other element that I know parts of my family, they were just drifters. They were, criminalised during a genocide.
Okay, so there's your family background, which is elements of working class politics and bohemianism and so on. What sort of events that were going on in England sort of first brought you into the sort of radical politics?
I mean, the real major thing was when I was at art school. This is down in Farnham in Hampshire, really lovely and leafy, and
I know it well.
Yeah, quite a big student population. So, and we'd created a collective. There was loads of free parties. So there was a real good student scene going on. And really, the anti-war movement was something that politicised us a lot. Myself and another student, Paul Sheikey, who worked on the sound and music for the Plague, we basically...
worked on the sound and music?
He worked, yeah. And we basically helped coordinate 2 street parties where we had minor blockades of Farnham High Street. It was very student-y, and we all went down to London and we did a die-in with some other students and blockaded Downing Street one day. But I kind of didn't get it because I was a bit drunk and everyone was sat down and I was trying to go, let's all get up, and everyone's going, you're going to get nicked for organising. But it was all very, like I say, all very kind of student and art school-y, but just the idea of feeling that we could actually do something that really kind of got us all motivated, and we were making posters, getting people organised, but we faced a lot of apathy from other students, which was the most killing thing. And then also just the way the Stop the War coalition went. It felt like so much could have changed at that time, and everyone was up for it. There was 2 million people out in the streets, but we were all thinking within this box. And even things like the people that had gone up to Fairford and unlawfully turned back, it's almost like the Stop the War coalition has kind of erased that from its history, which is a real shame.
Stop the War seemed to be the law of diminishing returns. Start off with 2 million and gradually work your way down to about 10,000. Well, I think for a lot of people that was a pretty disillusioning process with direct action or indirect action and politics. I mean, how did you manage to sort of not be disillusioned by that and retain interest in politics?
I mean, really, because at the time when I was leaving college as well, we'd started organising screenings at the London Action Resource Centre as part of our collective, which is LARC, a radical social centre. And really, I was pushing, and from the anti-war stuff, we were kind of connecting with a lot of things in London, but I never really felt that I kind of fitted in within the activist scene, and the main thing was because I make films, so I always thought everyone thought I was part of the evil media, which is kind of the antithesis of really why I actually make films. So I never really fitted into that, and I kind of put all my energy into making films, because to me that was the most political thing, is getting up off my arse and doing it for free and making culture that connects with people and is relevant. There's far more that's actually political. People can sit there and debate, are you just recuperating and selling back to people? Everyone actually does watch films, we listen to music, we consume culture. Not that it will ever change the world, but it can switch people on and start moving things in the right way.
You seem to have managed to sort of make films but not be consumed into the sort of radical activist milieu when you sort of know exactly what the films are going to be like. They're very agitprop-y, they're very worthy, but no one wants to watch them, basically, and they all have a sense of humour bypass. How do you manage to keep out of that?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things is I've always kept away from kind of being ideologically pure, which I've always found the kind of activist scene to be sometimes. That's not to say there's some really great people doing stuff, do you know what I mean? But really, my approach is, just from doing The Plague, is it was mainly about the kids I was growing up with or knew. I wanted to speak to them. I want to just speak to everyday people. I do want my films to reach as many people as possible. That doesn't mean I'm going to water down what I'm going to say. No, I want to connect as anyone should want to. For me, things like anarchism, they're like seeds that we should be spreading as far as possible, because that's where they take fruition.
So you got into sort of radical politics. You've done some film showings at LARC, but how did you specifically get into anarchism? Something you read, some people you met?
I think when I was about 17, I was at school still doing history, and partly because my middle name was Leon, I'd always quite been fascinated by Marxism, socialism, and part of it we were learning about the Russian Revolution, which I thought was really exciting. But then the other part we learned about the English Civil War, and specifically it was Christopher Hill's World Turned Upside Down, when I read the quotes from Gerard Winstanley, I was like, wow, this is more. He says more in a sentence than Marx can sum up in a book, and it was knowing that had been around for so long that really kind of switched me more on to anarchism.
And when did you actually meet your first fearsome anarchist? Or where
well,
did you meet them?
When I was actually at university, still at film school, in my second year, we had to do a drama documentary, and everyone was doing it costume dramas, but I decided to make it on the 1-to-1 centre, the old squat in Railton Road. And I started connecting with people in Urban 75. So, I mean, it was very, again, quite studenty, and it was just a story set within that. But I met Fabian Tomset as one of the first, I suppose, official anarchists.
Right.
And then people from 56A Crampton Street got me into a lot of the Spectacular Time stuff. And then Martin Wright as well, and was one of the first people I met at Lark. And Alessio from the Wombles, actually, was one of the first people. But really, meeting yourself, Ian, was kind of been one of the put me very much on the tracks towards anarchism.
And now you've been around, you've seen the anarchist movement and all its warts and all glory, and I know you were at the Anarchist Book Fair last week. I mean, in the present political situation, what opportunities do you think there are for developing the anarchist movement?
I mean, I think now is one of the best opportunities we're probably ever going to see, that a lot of people are really concerned about day-to-day issues, about rising energy, food and house prices. And I think if anarchists we can get away from this ghettoisation of what it is to be an anarchist, and really just everyday people starting to see that they can organise their own communities. And it really comes down to a local issues and dealing with them, and organising communities, organising themselves and not having to wait around. And people are now feeling that they've lost that trust in the system of government, and really we should get our ideas out amongst everyday working class people, because to me anarchism is just common sense. Most people I meet, probably most people that I learnt about anarchism is just through day-to-day people that don't call themselves anarchists. It's just people that are anti-authoritarian, see that the politicians aren't out for them. Why would they be out for them? It's common sense. So I think it's a big time, and we really have to be pushing and organising and try and move things forward.
I was amazed with the financial crisis last week, the lack of action from anarchists or anyone else in the city. One of the problems over the last few years has been that the police seem to have got everything sewn up. It's extremely difficult to demonstrate anywhere in the City of London without being kettled in by the police, forced into a corner. I mean, can you see a way around that? Any ideas how sort of mobilisations on the street can come back into vogue again? Yeah,
I mean, it's really about the amount of people, I do think, at some point. I mean, the past few actions, even things like May the 2nd, and I used to go to the old May days after the big ones, unfortunately, and I just got fed up from being kettled in, and it has become a real nuisance. I think either people need to keep on their feet in small numbers and keep moving. There seems to be in British anarchism, we just kind of stand around and let the police circle us, but I think it really does come down to numbers. Until any big street actions can happen, we need to build up a network and get people out on the streets, because if there's more people than there are police, then they can't kettle us in.
You're part of this sort of movement across London to set up local anarchist groups across London. I think specifically you're involved with the Whitechapel anarchist group and trying to start that out. Could you tell us a bit about the Whitechapel scene? Yeah,
Whitechapel is a handful of us have just kind of organised to get a group together. We've been publicising it for a past month, putting out a free sheet and also doing a cinema night. I mean, Whitechapel is steeped in anarchist history, from Sydney Street to the Jubilee Club to Cable Street. There's so much there, and we've also quite established anyway. We've got Lark, there's Freedom Press, there's Ramparts. There's a lot of people around that area. I mean, the divides between the new kind of housing coming in, the loft apartments, and the divide between rich and poor is so obvious to the eye just to walk around there. It seems like we need a anarchist group in Whitechapel, and things that we're hoping to set up are like a local paper, keep doing social events, hopefully get more people in at Freedom now that they've moved their bookshop downstairs. Any other local campaigns, anything to do with stopping evictions, any pubs that are getting closed down. Really, we want to build up enough of us that if anything's happening, we can just spring into action and help defend our local communities.